Here we are.
Here we are.
Let me do a quick intro.
Yeah.
For those out there, I'm Daywalker. My wife and I have been hosting the Butch Femme group on Facebook over 12 years now, and the affiliate groups and whatnot as well. And I guess hashtag bearded butch identity agender bearded bush. It'll catch trend. I just know
Yeah. I like it. Good.
So, Gabby, one of the reasons why yeah, I reached out was, and I think I had reached out and talked to you almost a year ago for the first
Yeah.
time
It was about
when I spotted your page and saw that it was coming back alive and whatnot. Um, and it has a lot to do with the Butch Femme community and all that we encompass now,
mm-hmm.
and keeping it relevant and visible. And it requires people who are passionate about identity, and stepping up into the spotlight, and it takes that the stepping up part,
It does.
and so my thing now after this many years of hosting, is to just make sure that I take the time to reach out and highlight those who are stepping up, because I mean it matters. It's super important for this generation and the ones behind us.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Especially how this community has evolved, and and it's not just the Butch Femme dynamic. It's all things Butch, all things Femme, all things stud, masculine of center, feminine of center, stone identity, OS
Yeah.
identity. I mean, we're a huge, diverse community full of complicated people. So so it does matter. It matters that that you've taken on a role here,
Yeah.
however small in the corner it may be. Every corner of the room matters, and we got a lot of corners in this room.
True.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'd like to ask a couple of questions of you. And first off, the calendar has released, yes?
The calendar is released. Yeah, it's on pre-order. It's spinning on the printing press as we speak and ready to ship out in the next couple weeks after the holiday here. So it's ready though. It's coming. It's happening.
When did you first start the project? How long do you think it took to actually make it come to fruition?
For the calendar itself and
Yeah.
that. Well, we had the idea this time last year. Well, a little earlier than this time last year. So it's been about a year in the making to make it happen. When I first started the project, a lot of people were like, "Oh, are you making a calendar? That seems like it'd be cool." And we kind of like tossed the idea around, but nothing really had legs yet. So I hadn't really, the project was still like forming itself and figuring itself out. So I was like, no, not yet. And then, the more we did, especially with the group of us, with the whole crew, the more it was like, oh, maybe we should do this. We got a lot of questions about it, a lot of asks about it. And so basically, I think we started talking about it probably around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier. And I was just like, you know what, like there's no way to get it done in like 2 months, right? Like it has to be done being produced long before November for it to work out. And but what I did was I messaged everybody and I said, well, why don't we start with the most important part? Who's into it? Who on the crew is willing to do it, and how do we how do we go from there? And I messaged everybody, and within 10 minutes, everybody had responded, absolutely, you let me know when we're ready to go. Definitely, let's do it. 100% on the ball. So from that point, I started doing all the research and the legwork and talking to Graciela, my founding photographer, to find out like what would come into play. We did lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of logistics. How much will we get it printed? What will we, how did it all go? And, and then we shot it in June. And now it's done being put together. Granted, I had giant life changes in the midst of shooting the calendar, and And
Yeah, of
my
course.
family, so I had no idea that that was going to happen. My wife is entering and my dog is leaving.
That sounds like a country song.
Yeah, exactly, right? So obviously when we had the calendar planned, we had no idea we were going to have to make a large move for our family, and also didn't anticipate both of us getting COVID and me getting pneumonia from the COVID in the midst of the move. So that put a big halt on like our, when we wanted to release it.
I would say
A big one.
that'd be the number one on the list this year of viable excuses as to why shit didn't get done.
Exactly.
You know?
So, but we were like, you know what, we're still going to do it because we did it all and we did all the work and we didn't want to wait for 2023. So, yeah. So, but it was a big undertaking to get everybody together and then to get everybody together to, look at the pictures and approve them and, go through the whole.
When you say we, you say you have an original forming team involved.
Yes. So it started with myself and Graciela, the founding photographer, and then of course my wife behind the scenes, always helping, but as a silent partner, always assisting. So, and then on top of that, then I have the crew, and there are 6 of them. So it's kind of it's always a joint effort. I always get everybody's opinion. Most of the driving is between myself and Graciela and Emily with, the direction and the timelines and the organization process. So that's kind of how we go. But everybody who comes on is part of it along the way, as much as they have time for.
Now, the diversity in the spectrum of butch, stud, masculine, or center folks, I realize you only had a handful for your crew this time around. How important, in the order of importance, was it for you guys to try and represent a fuller spectrum, and not just in identity, but also in race and culture, with Black and Indigenous and people of color?
Yeah, extremely important. I knew that I had the drive and the privilege to be able to do this. And as soon as I could get other people on board, that's what I wanted to do. I'm only one perspective, and there's still so much more that I want. And because this project is tight to who we are, we obviously, and I know you can relate to this. We're really not picky, but we're really intentional about who we want involved, because it's very important that everybody's on the same, it works because we all work together. Right. So like, I know when you do adding people into this group, you put everybody through like the ringer of checking their stuff.
I do all the vetting, yeah.
And because this is so close to home, we want to make sure that everybody has values to match, especially, very important for us, like to make sure that, everybody is on the same page with us in terms of inclusivity of transgender people, and, inclusivity of saying that butch is not exclusive to one particular gender. So like making sure all of that is in play, along with, people who actually want to be involved, and all of that is important. So we're very like careful about who we want on, but we want more people and we want as much as possible. So yeah, that's really important to me, to get a broad perspective, and to get more people included and get more people represented, because there's just not enough representation across the board for any diversity. So the more the better.
Yeah. In fact, over the last couple of years, we've seen more visibility come to mainstream media in articles and posts and whatnot, having to do with butches, masculine or center folks represent Abby. Okay, yeah. Abby with the Work in Progress show. If I tell you, I'm going to use my position at some point, and I think it might be, I might turn that card in to be able to maybe sit and have coffee with Abby.
Yeah,
I would love to sit and talk to her, just thank her.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm going to get that message out there soon. But I'm a big fan of what's going on there with that whole show. When the first couple of episodes, I just sat back and I went, my people. So it made me a little verklempt, because
I love it.
We are, even when you use the acronym of all the letters to represent this community is still left out in the cold a little bit. We're not all represented in there, and so I picked up Rainbow Canopy. That's what I'm calling it, because it just that's got us all covered. Hashtag that. So so your day job, so to speak, and your family and whatnot, this takes up a lot of your time. So what is next for Butch Boudoir, and will you be still doing just the occasional photos for representation and for posting in the groups and for visibility in between? And will you do another calendar project after this?
So I would love to do another calendar. It's definitely going to depend on how this calendar plays out. However, so far so good. It's fantastic. I'm lucky that all of the crew live in the same state as me, and so scheduling might be slightly more complicated with me out of the area, but not impossible. I think we're all willing to figure out how to make it happen, and of course, as we find more people to come on board. So I would like to say that yes, there will be another calendar, and I'd like to just do more projects. So definitely more, absolutely, we're going to do more photos. Absolutely figuring out how to bring more people on board. Those are all within the.
I'd like to see you guys consider reaching out to maybe assemble long distance photographers.
Yes, definitely. So there have been a lot of ideas for what the project was going to be as it started, and then what, like where it's going. I'm very big on letting things kind of take, letting the community decide what they want, right? So like, I certainly can have ideas for what I might have thought would be cool. But I'm not trying to push in any particular direction. I'm trying to just steer the ship to go the way that this is what people seem to be asking for. So a lot of asks were for calendars, so we did it, and we get a lot of asks for merch, which is cool because it's Butch products designed for Butch people, and that's also awesome. And figuring out how to get more people involved in more ways without everybody having to be local, because I don't want it to be only South Florida.
Right.
Or Florida in general. We're all across Florida now. So I want to figure out how to get more people involved and get more photographers involved, and
more logistics.
More logistics, right? Which is why it's so important that like I get a lot of people who ask me how they can participate, and I have a list, and I have an email list, and you can get on that list if you're interested. And it's why I'm so careful, because I want to make sure that we do it right and we don't grow it out to be beyond being manageable. Yes, like you mentioned, I do have a job and a family, and sometimes I like to sleep. So what I don't want to do is I don't want it to crash and burn, right? Like it's very important to me that it doesn't do that. So I have to be tighter with the, how many people I bring on board or in what capacity I bring people on board. So that way I make sure we don't grow beyond what we can manage, and then, everything falls apart. And I think that we see that unfortunately a lot in our community. I know that was something you and I talked about when we first talked, that you were like, I've been keeping an eye on you to see if you can keep it going, and like,
yeah.
But it's true, because it's a lot of work, and this because you run this, and it's a lot of work, and it's great work, and it's really important to me. And so I have to keep that boundary. So it's very important to me to keep that boundary, that we don't grow it faster than it can grow. So that way it is sustainable.
And sustainable also has to do with humility. And that means, like, even in the language that you're using when you're speaking, you say we a lot. Yeah. It's not I. You're not centering yourself. And I think some of the crash and burn is when people either grow way too fast, too quickly, or they're centering themselves. And that crash and burn is even harder, because, you start with a passion, but it takes a village. And the we part's very important. It's with our groups, the last thing I can do, I'm not going to stand in the middle of almost 23,000 members, and go me.
Right.
I would imagine that number would dwindle quickly.
Yes.
But Yeah, I got people on here that don't even, when they see my name, they don't know who I am
Sure.
on the group feed, and that's kind of the way I want it. And they'll see the little badge next to us as admin, but I'm trying to center the people,
Yes.
you know, because and in all the glory of this diversity, when we've held gatherings, you know, our first couple, yeah, I was able to look around and out of like 50 people present, I literally was able to sit and see that, you know, we were all there and accounted for, all the identities,
Yeah.
and the culture and diversity and color, and we had representation from all of it, even just within 4 or 5 dozen people sitting around.
I love
And
it.
that was kind of like my goal in the group itself, and to see it in person,
Right.
you know, again, verklempt, you know.
Absolutely.
It's
Listen,
it's
I cried a little bit when I sent this calendar out. It happened. I was
That-
like, oh,
that's right. That's right.
it really happened. Okay. So it's safe, right? Whatever we do, it's crazy.
I started a calendar project like 4 or 5 years ago, and the external drive that I had everything on crashed,
Yeah.
and so I let it go. I gave it up. It had already taken so much of my energy that year, and to see that happen, I did not have the energy to restart. And but this year I plan to do a giant photo pool,
Cool.
which is just going to be everybody submit photos, and I'm going to stick everything into a giant video.
Cool.
With some nice music behind it, and represent all of us, you know, in photos. And that's easy stuff for me. So
that's great. Yeah.
That I'm going to do. But what is next for Gabby and Butch Boudoir and the we part of it all?
The we part. So we definitely want to create more swag. So the Wildly Handsome swag was really popular. I have some Butch Magic swag that I released but didn't actually get anywhere yet, so that'll actually get released. So we definitely want to make some more stuff, because I feel like there's always a lot of ask for that, and also it helps fund the legitimate financials of the project, like, you know, the paying for the website and paying for this and that.
Yeah.
We want to solidify how we're going to get more people involved and in what ways. So figuring out how to expand the crew, for sure, is going to be one on there, or at least expanding how much more representation we can do, even if the crew stays smaller and it takes a little bit longer to get people in the crew. But I'm thinking more along the lines of, how do we get some more representation happening, and inclusion on the outskirts, right? So not everybody who's going to be able to be in the calendar, but let's get the middle, you know, between everybody else out.
When you get that figured out, and you post it in our group, keep in mind it's worldwide.
Yeah.
So you may have to reach beyond the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but we have a lot of people who are big fans and followers and community outside of the U.S. So definitely, I'm always trying to think of how to do that. But like I said, you know, we're always also trying to keep in tight. So yeah, I think that those are big goals. And just kind of seeing where we want to go. A lot of people have asked for a lot of different things. I'd like to get the live conversations back on track again, the Butch Banters, do some more of those, because that also is an opportunity for us to bring in more people. And definitely also a big thing for us too is getting the Patreon running, or Patreon, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, but everybody knows what I mean. But getting a better place for us to put content that's not all run by Zuckerberg. No offense to Zuckerberg, but you know,
hey, you know, I have my appreciations and limitations on that. My appreciations is I'm able to host a community free.
Yeah.
It's not costing me a penny, other than my life and times, my gray hair, and my health. So, but money wise, I don't have to monetize off this community, because it's free what I'm doing. Now our dating app, that'll be a different thing, but this platform, I've learned to come to appreciate it, and the efforts that they're making behind the scenes. Far as I'm in direct contact with the people who run the groups division for Facebook. And that's where I'm limited. I stick right there. And the rest of it, I try not to get into, because I don't want to get too disenchanted.
Yeah. Well, I think the truth is that we find that some people want more and some people don't. So like importance to me is things being accessible. So I would never ever jump ship from Instagram or Facebook or any of those things, because the representation that's free and accessible and easy for people to find is very important. But some people also want to dive in more. And even more important than me, I don't want to be asking more people who are on the margins for their time and effort if I cannot fund them. So, for me to, the reason that the crew works as it is because I'm really lucky those people are all my friends.
I was going to ask you about that. How many of these folks have you known for a long time?
I have known them for a long time, and I'm incredibly blessed to have such a really cool group of people who are willing to volunteer their time. And I give them what I can. I got food covered. The whole experience of the photo shoot, I'm a very experienced person. So they were fed, they were taken care of at the event, and I, worked to try to get people to donate food, and everything else we paid for. So that really all they had to do was donate their handsomeness and their time and their gas to get there. As much
and
as
their swagger, bring the swagger.
And the swagger, right? So I always try to give as much as I can to the crew, because I'm very appreciative that they donate their time, because they know I don't have anything. But so like my reason for wanting to take it a step beyond is because that's also really important to me. If I'm going to ask other people in the community to donate their time, or to, to give so much that they give, I want to value that. And so what I feel like is that the Patreon platform allows us to say, great, here's what we're giving to you, and then we're going to take this a step further. And if you're interested in the step further and you want to learn more and go deeper, this is where we do it. And that way we're able to continue all of it. So I think all of it's really important, and all of it being accessible is really, really, really important. I agree. I would never get rid of any of the other stuff. And I think it's just also just an additional platform, right? Like we had that great Facebook outage not that long ago. And when you start to realize that, well, especially if you're building a community and you're building something, for some people, it's really, really important to have access to it all the time. So
it unplugged all of their platforms, Instagram, everything, didn't it?
Right.
I mean, everything that, what is their new cover name? Meta.
Right.
So I had to immediately play with it, Facebook, Meta, Feta, yeah. So I stuck with Feta. I know I'm a cheese lover. What can I say?
Love it.
So,
sounds great.
So what else? Well, I'm going to ask you that question in a minute. First, I wanted to make a note, and that was that our community is not just the Butch Femme dynamic. It's Butch and the Butch. It's queer and the queer. It's everything as far as that's concerned. But as a full spectrum community and group, I would also like to thank the F to our B, which is all the femmes who are what I call enchanted. To me, that means they are born as somebody who is wired to be drawn naturally to masculine of center AFAB folks, and we want to take a minute to recognize them for being some of our biggest fans out there, and for tolerating us, and because some of us, it can be a challenge. We have to navigate this world in the patriarchy using our masculinity from a completely different angle. And that can be a challenge. So we can sometimes be a challenge to live with, to be with, to hang out with. I'm sure your wife's over there nodding. And
no,
no. Liar. Pants are on fire.
Perfect.
You can see the smoke coming from your pants right now. It's on fire. So I needed to take that moment, because there is an F next to the B, and there's when we share I haven't seen is, I have not seen any of the folks up on the TV and whatnot, and all these butches who are getting the spotlight. I haven't seen any of them share it yet with the F to the B, and we're working on trying to. I mean, because to me that kind of perpetuates feminine visibility, doesn't it?
Sure,
So we don't want to be perpetuators.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'd like to. I wish I had time, but I would love to see more stuff out there that is just femme centered as well as, because
Absolutely.
we're really good at, and we have done well with centering the butches.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I think it's great because
I
again,
agree.
there's people who live in areas that you don't see butches in the wild,
Yes.
right? And so they come to these groups and whatnot to see the photographic evidence of and to be fans of the calendar. This gives them something that they can put up on their wall and see at any given moment, knowing
Absolutely.
that when they walk outside, they're not going to see hardly any butches at all. So
Right.
it's important. It's on so many little levels. It's important, and then to me, that's what makes the big picture turn.
Of course.
So,
yeah, absolutely. I agree. I would love to see that. Sometimes people will comment and see like, where's the Femme one? I'll sign up for that. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm not going to make it because I'm not Femme. But that wouldn't be
time, right?
Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, that's not my identity. So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't try to run it because I don't have that perspective.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. And I agree. And we try real hard to make sure that, so like personally, I think, personally, all the butches in the group mostly associate with the butch femme dynamic.
Predominantly, yeah.
Predominantly. But I believe though that I always try to make sure that we are, including the fact that not everybody is butch femme, and that's totally okay. I
appreciated the hell out of the post I saw you put up. And I watch and stuff. I may not click a reaction or anything, but if you put up a post for trans folks who still identify as butch, and I want to tell you how much I appreciated seeing that, because I do have conversations a lot recently with somebody who was in a marriage for 10 years and is just now coming back out of that marriage and back into the world, and they're having a difficult time finding their space, their place. And he says, this is my first time even trying to date in over 10 years, but now I'm a trans man. I mean, I'm a half balded, and so listening to them talk about having this lost feeling, a post like yours, what you said in there, it helps them realize that they're not immediately kicked out of this particular community. It's what sets us apart, from the rest. So thanks for that post.
Yeah, thank you. Those posts have been very important to me. I've been posting, making sure we get the word out for trans visibility, for bisexual, pansexual visibility, anybody who's a non-binary awareness. Those are really important. Yep, agender, right? It's very important to me that we include that, because I feel like there tends to be a lot of gatekeeping around who's allowed to be butch.
Right.
And I don't agree with it. I don't agree. There's a young person in my life who just came out as trans, and they used to identify with butch. And I asked them, I said, do you still feel connected to the term? And they said, well, I don't think I can, because it's only for lesbian women. And I said, well, I'm going to challenge you to throw that out the window, because that's not true. If it's a term that you associate with and you feel it, then it's for you. It doesn't matter if you're trans and now you don't identify as a lesbian woman. And so like, it's important to me because, and those posts get the most comments and the most feedback, and I get the most appreciation from people saying, thank you so much for saying this. And thank you for, for posting this. And honestly, on the bisexuality day one, I had somebody who said, they didn't understand it from the perspective of how come they need to be told that they're valid. And I said, because they're told all the time that you can't be, like, that if you're butch, you should only be, a cisgender woman who's attracted to other women. And like, that's not fair and that's not right. So like, it's really important to me to speak out on that, because there's visibility beyond just our presentation.
That's on my list of panel discussions, Ashley.
So
fluidity and bisexuality within our community, and and that includes folks who are butch and masculine as well. And
Right.
Tomorrow we've got the Stone Identity panel
Yes.
discussion is going to go up.
Right.
But yeah, panel discussions and interviews. That's the thing I want to do this year, because it's just gonna you know, it just validates a lot of people who are looking for that, and it's necessary. It can literally change somebody's life.
Again,
so
it's important. And I think that it's really important too, so that we can see that we're a community, but that we're diverse within the community, right? So even when we do the banters, and there's either 4 or 6 of us, the perspective, there's always, you know, something different. Everybody has different pronouns. Everybody has different perceptions of their body. Everybody has different, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I think that it's great. So the more we talk about it, the more other people can see, wow, I didn't realize that I can feel this way and also still identify this way. And I have those moments myself, you know, like I don't, I will never claim to be the authority on anything. I'll only claim to know what I know and say how I feel and what I believe. But
I'm the same way. And most of my knowledge has been gathered just by listening to my own community.
Yeah, exactly. And I learn along the way too, you know, about, you know, like, and I have those own moments myself, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't think that I could also feel this way. And also,
I'm sorry, this is our special guest, Miss Delilah.
There you go.
She's a daddy's girl. She's about 15, almost 16 now. So she's totally ruined.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, so we're gonna close this out, but I want you to let folks know where they can go to get this, and also anything that you wanted to say in there that we haven't already. I want you to say it.
Okay. So I'll say, so about first of all, I'm super appreciative to you. I'm big on creating community. I think that that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not trying to be all of everything. So, you know, if people come to me and say, hey, are you gonna do this? Are you going to create this kind of system? Are you going to do something like this? I'm like, well, I'm not, because this exists over here and I want to support what's already been established. So I'm not going to create a Butch Femme group. There's already a wonderful one that I'm already a part of, and you guys are established, and I'd rather support you than try to, you know, make something new. I want to do what I'm going to do. And so like, I love creating community though, because we all have a lot to do, and there's a lot of opportunity for visibility and representation. It's not like it's a tight, like we all have to fight. We can just all work together to do everything. So like being a part of this and sharing in, you know, the community and stuff like that is super important to me. I want to boost you guys up and you boost us up, and like that we're all in it together, and collaborate. So that's important to me across the board. This calendar is so queer. It makes me so happy. It is, it's so great. And it's also being printed stateside. So again, I don't know how much things matter to people, but what's important to me is it's being printed in Florida by a queer woman run business. So
that's good note. That's good to note.
It is, I've been trying to put that in there as much as possible. And I'm like, you guys need to understand, this is like very queer. Like I did it as much as I possibly could. Again, super lucky that the person who runs the business is my friend, but you know, we're not printing it over in China and waiting for it to come over. We're keeping everything local. We're keeping it, you know, as much as we possibly can. I'm the graphic designer, so it was also designed by a queer butch individual. You know, this isn't outsourced to somebody. Again, I'm lucky that that's my skill set, which made making the whole thing easier. But
our moderator, Sandra Jean-Pierre,
yeah,
she designed all of our cover photos.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not only supporting the project, it supports the whole community as a whole, right? Like it expands beyond that. So that's really important to me. And we also went through to make sure we included all the queer holidays. There's no, the 4th of July is not marked on that calendar. But you will find Pride Month, and you will find LGBTQ History Month, and you will find Agender Awareness Week, and you will find Bi Visibility Day, and as many of the days that we could find reasonably.
That's excellent
to include. So we worked really hard to make it inclusive and really representative of the community. I think we have more than enough access to calendars that have the other holidays on them.
Right. Like that.
So everything can be bought on the website at butchboudoir.com. It's right on the homepage. You can't miss it. And then, of course, we're posting about it. So if you go on Facebook or Instagram, where we're Butch Boudoir Project, it's right in our link in bio, and links are all over the place. And I'm sure we will include some more stuff in the Butch Femme community.
And I'll be sure and post a link and get it up pinned into our featured stuff. And
awesome. Thank you.
And when we're done here, I'm gonna get this recording and stick it up on the YouTube and have the information in the in the description as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you for always taking time to talk to me. And
I appreciate you right back.
I can't wait to see what we do next year.
Yeah. Me too, frankly. We'll have a whole nother interview.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna close it out then.
Awesome.
And let me see. I can do it from my portal, I think. And then I should see it pop up over here that it's recorded. So, and I'll thank Zoom ahead of time. If not, I'm gonna curse them.
Lots of recording lights, so it must be working somewhere.
Thank God. All right. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.